In the video lecture series on language acquisition theories. In part one, we talked about the classic language learning theories described in your textbook. In this clip, I want to highlight some key points of some of the current models for language learning that are being investigated in language acquisition research. Note that the current models are interactionist in focus. They're not assuming that it's all innate, you're born with everything that you need to know about language, or that everything is input-based. They're in the center of the continuum. Interactionist models believe there are some innate factors as well as some input factors which drive language learning. On the innate side, we have innate abilities to learn language, to learn grammar. We also have some general learning mechanisms which allow us to acquire many different kinds of information. Information processing is a person's ability to take in information, store it in memory, and retrieve it. This is an innate factor which is very useful in the language acquisition process. Additionally, children are born with cognitive abilities. They're born with the ability to think and to solve problems and to analyze patterns. They're also born with the ability to read other people's thoughts, intentions, and emotions. This is very important in terms of allowing them to acquire language. On the input side, language acquisition is also driven by caregivers who support and scaffold children's efforts to communicate. Children acquire language input that they receive frequently, and they acquire language based on the uses they need for those language structures. In terms of linguistic theory, current researchers are studying universal grammars. They're talking about those rules that children acquire first are those rules that characterize all different languages. Then next they acquire the language-specific parameters. And parameters are the specific rules of your own language, English, Spanish, Norwegian. Those are acquired after the linguistic universals based on this theory. This theory believes that children's grammatical errors reflect the fact that they haven't acquired the specific parameters for their language system. So although the focus of linguistic research is still on syntax, it's broadened. We're looking at what factors are innate in terms of grammar and how does that knowledge evolve. Information processing theories are based on a computer model. The idea is that grammar is innate. That's part of your hardware. That's what you're born with. But how you acquire language depends on the input that you receive. So the computer takes in input about language and analyzes it. And information that children receive about language that's more frequent, sounds that happen frequently, syllable structures that happen frequently, grammatical structures that happen frequently in their language are the ones that they're going to learn first. Perceptual saliency, working memory, how you store information, as well as your general processing abilities play into this model as well. There are several constructivist theories that are currently being researched that are very important to understanding language development as well. On the cognitive end, the focus is on what thinking skills are critical that allow children to learn language. So they're looking at how people build schema and knowledge based on the experiences that they have. We're looking at general learning processes or biases. Those strategies people use to acquire new information, language included, which allows them to identify patterns and analyze relationships and expand their knowledge base with language and other symbol systems. And finally, the constructivist orientation from a social functional point of view is emphasizing children's responsiveness to adult social cues. They believe that the key to language development is children focusing on and understanding the intentions, the thoughts, the feelings of others. This is the whole emphasis behind theory of mind experiments, where they're looking at how children gain social knowledge, how they think about what other people are thinking and feeling and what they need to know. So the idea here is that children focus on caregivers, their gaze, their facial expression, their gestures, in order to figure out what's important to communicate and to analyze the meaning of their messages. This theory differs from social interactionism in the classic model because it's not just limited to how the caregivers support the child's effort to acquire language, but also how the child's desire for language and focus on intentionality allows him to use language and develop an area of grammar and